today. I'll do some round of introductions, but I'll start with myself. My name's Sina. I work on business development at Chainlink Labs. Been there for a little under 2 years, and yeah, do these all the time for us and help moderate with some great guests that we have here. So with us today first, we have Connie Lamb. Connie is the head of Shield at Certik. We have Robert from OtterSec, Dan Laine from Ava Labs, and Christopher Lauro from Truflation. So I'll let them all introduce themselves. I'll have them just talk about what they do, what their company does, and the project they're associated with, and then we'll get started. So why don't we start with you, Connie?
Sure, thank you, Sina. So hi everyone, my name is Connie. So I work in Certik. So Certik, we are a Web3 security company that we're providing solutions for code assessment and security checkpoints for any type of blockchain related things. And myself, I primarily will be focusing on the incident response and also the auditing service. So really nice to meeting you guys.
I'm Robert. I'm from OtterSec or OSEC. We're a boutique Rust-based audit shop, and I guess do technical and BD stuff there.
Hello. Hey, I'm Dan Laine. I work at Ava Labs. We make the Avalanche network, a layer 1 blockchain network. I've been there for 2 3/4 years, which I joke is like 275 years in crypto time. And I'm a software engineer there working on the core platform.
My name is Chris Lauro. I'm very honored to be here. I'm with Laguna. I'm a team leader there. Laguna is a inflation-proof ecosystem. We have several products that we've brought out, such as Trusted Node, Truflation, which is why I'm here today. But we also will be launching a blockchain, a wallet, and a flat coin in the near future.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone. So while we're on that note, we can start with you, Chris. Just to kind of get an icebreaker, get the crowd going. What gets you up in the morning? Why do you guys do what you do? What greater problem are you guys trying to solve?
So yeah, I mean, like all of you, I get up and I look at the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum immediately. But I really am very excited about smart contracts, NFTs. I'm very involved with the NFTs. And I think for me, the immutability of the blockchain and the smart contracts is really what excites me in this industry. So aside from my family, I think crypto gets me up pretty quick in the morning.
Yeah, I think that there's just in this space a lot of really novel, interesting problems that haven't been tackled before, whether that's on the technical side or building products on top of that. But, I'm an engineer, and it's just fun to wake up every day and just, try to be solving something that's never been done before.
Yeah, kind of similar answer, but I think blockchain is like a very interesting execution environment. It's like completely transparent, and you can kind of see what everyone else is doing, and trying to ensure security in like such a, I think, hostile environment is pretty cool. And there's like a lot of unsolved problems in that space.
So I guess because I handling incident response, right? So my very first thing, wake up is like every 5 a.m. to see is there any exploit happen. So if not, then I can take another sleep for 2 more hours. Well, if there are anything in the middle, like couple $1 million exploit, then have to wake up immediately, work with the global team. Just make sure that we can sending an alert out. Make sure everyone that making the investment will, seeing the most recent news. Yeah, so that's what my purpose waking up every day. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. So the topic today is going to be DeFi tools, which really at the end of it is about talking about open source and its transparency and being important. So all of us here have some sort of involvement with open source. And so let's talk about that. Like, why is that important as a guiding philosophy and principle? Should we start with you, Connie?
Yes, so I guess I'm not sure is that the philosophy part, but I guess open source definitely is helping a lot. Computer science program product has been moving much faster than what we thought. It's a really great place for learning, open-minded, and sharing with the other one. Yeah, so I guess that's a open world, but in terms that everyone can commit whenever they can, and to share with the other people.
I think open source enables a lot of cool composability opportunities on blockchain. So for example, by having contracts open source, you can like really easily build other contracts that then interface, like for example, like a yield aggregator. And I feel like open source lets people more easily collaborate, like all over the world across boundaries.
Yeah, one nice thing about open source is that you get other people to do your work for you for free. So that's pretty nice. No, but really, I think not only is it effective in that regard, but also it's just the right thing to do in a sense. Obviously, you don't want to give away like your competitive advantage, but I might argue that they're really, you're not really giving away your competitive advantage as a company by open sourcing stuff, because you need to build on whatever it is you've open sourced, and probably the team that created the work is in the best position to continue to build on it and have users adopt it. And it's not just like the crypto world, like a bunch of internet weirdos like us. It's big companies that are doing it too, and they see, I think, benefit in doing it. And it allows for a lot of collaboration. It allows for building on other people's work, and I think it's been extremely successful.
Yeah, I'll just follow up on that. I think all those answers were perfect. I just feel that, like, in terms of a philosophical look at it, it's the main driver for innovation and ingenuity. Having an open source and being able to build on top of it is really what's gonna. For me, it's what drives ingenuity.
Really good. Now let's take the opposite side of that question, right? What inherent risk do we see because of open source at large in this space? And more specifically, what kind of security measures do you guys all take on a day-to-day basis to help and mitigate some of those risks that come with it? We can start with you, Chris. We'll leave Certik for the end on this one.
Yeah, so I think it's obvious it's a two-edged sword. While it's open and everybody's able to build on it and it's innovative, it also comes with inherent risks of hacking and all that comes with it. So I think that on the one hand it's great, but that is an inherent risk in it. And I think for us at Truflation, we hire that out. We bring experts in like Kadelsky and Halborn and Coin Fabric for the smart contracts. I'm not sure if we're using Certik. I think we did have a relationship. But so we're more focused on what we do best, and we leave the security to the experts.
Yeah, obviously, as Christopher said, it's a blessing and a curse to have open source code, right? Because you might publish something that has a vulnerability in it and not realize it until later. So obviously, we employ kind of like static code analysis practices, GitHub bots and the like, to make sure that all of our dependencies are secure, and if there's a vulnerability in one of them, that we upgrade it. We do a bunch of our development in private and then later push it public once we're fairly sure that there's no bugs in it. So those are a couple of the measures that we take to prevent exploits from having our code be open sourced.
I think this is a pretty interesting question, actually, because a lot of our customers ask this too, about like if they should open source the smart contracts. I think there is like an immediate risk of, if you have an open source contract, someone malicious might come across it and it would be easier for them to find a vulnerability. At the same time, I think that it's not like a perfect defense, because over time, eventually the so-called water level of security will rise to the point where people are able to reverse engineer these contracts, and then they're able to find these vulnerabilities, even if you're not open source. So I think like on net, it's generally better to have an open source contract and have this transparency, even if it might compromise security temporarily. I think like the benefits of closed sourcing your contracts or your code base in general is temporary at best, and it's kind of like a band-aid, when in reality you should probably just like patch the vulnerabilities.
Yeah, I guess all of you guys are saying a really great point. So instead of hiding, like open source definitely will helping people to identify the issue like quicker and address it. And I believe like how this is like every of the technology is like moving forward, right? And a lot of time technology or maybe innovation has learned from the failure, but this is how we evolving like much faster. So I guess there might be like a few of the way that, or maybe guidance that when people can do on the open source before that, like a chat list. Maybe you can also ask for people, doing like an internal team review, cooperate with some of the static analysis tooling into your building pipeline. And also, be more open-minded, like open the bug bounty program and all that, to be more proactively upsetting when people reporting the issues. So yeah.
That was really good. Thank you, everyone, for that. That was really good. Let's make this more specific. Over the past few months, there's been a series of DeFi protocols that have felt immense amount of pressure to revoke on their core principles, right? How do you look at that? Do you look at that as smoke and mirrors? Do you look at that as a short-term compromise? Do you ignore it entirely? I mean, what is your stance on some of these things? Yeah.
So I guess this is actually the normal norm, right, for the whole crypto, like in the past couple of years. So I guess we definitely we have to, people have to do some of the investigation, especially like in terms of the reading the paper itself to make sure that the project team really solving the issue. They are solving a real business problem. Investigation a little bit more on the team side, who they are, and I guess a little bit more like background checks.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty difficult question, especially for people who might not be as familiar with the space. I think probably the best thing is to just see if they have a realistic long-term vision. I feel like a lot of projects try to trap retail users with promises of very high APY. That's if you think about it, is not really realistic in the long term, or it's completely unsustainable. So I feel like just using some common sense about if the project's promises are actually realistically fulfillable is probably a good gut check.
Yeah, and kind of building on that, just like in more traditional fields, credibility is incredibly important, maybe even more important in the crypto world. And I think that whether or not you should think badly of a project because they've made some sort of compromise on decentralization depends on how much credibility that they have as a team, right? Are they a bunch of anonymous people that say, oh, this is a temporary thing, don't worry, it'll go back to normal in a little while? Or are they, are they outward facing and reveal who they are, and have they built credibility over time that they actually can build a product that you actually should trust them, and that sort of thing. And I think eventually the proof is in the pudding, right? You can judge people reasonably well based on their past actions, and maybe they can fool you once, but hopefully they don't fool you twice if they say that they're going to do something and then they don't, with regards to being decentralized or whatever else.
So I'm going to take a completely different angle on this one. Not different angle, but I'm going to look at it from a different perspective. So for me, this question really, what I'm thinking about is, we've got DeFi, decentralized platforms reaching back into Web 2 for financing and loans, and we're going backwards instead of forwards. I think we need to be decentralizing all of banking and not looking for loans from traditional banks who are then going to control us or the crypto again. So there's three camps: old school bankers or countries controlling it. Then you have a mixture like MakerDAO and DAI, which we're seeing right now with MakerDAO is working with a 150-year-old bank. And, so how much influence will they have over that project? I don't know. So I think for me, I'm more in line with trying to keep it moving forward into a decentralized world, as opposed to reaching back into Web 2 for loans and financing and control of the industry.
Really good takes. Thank you. For this next one, let's talk about the user experience specifically with each and one of your projects. Dan, we'll have this one sit out because your layer 1 network. I have a different question for you afterwards, but let's start with you, Chris. Tell us more about how users can interact with Truflation besides, Scaramucci talking about a WEF. Just generally, how can people access that dashboard? And then same for OtterSec and Certik.
So it really couldn't have been at a better time, to be honest with you. We have a CPI index comes out yesterday at 9.1, right? I mean, so the news comes out, it's 9.1, and within seconds, within moments, the White House says, you can't trust that because it's 30 days old. That information is invalid. Don't listen to the guy behind the curtain. So, when I'm looking at this, I'm saying, Truflation, we have, for those of you who don't know, we're basically a census level. We have millions and millions of data points. We're crunching the numbers on a daily basis. It's going through Chainlink, it's immutable, it's on the Oracle. We are an Oracle, so you can attach your industry right to us as an API. So for me, when you look at it, of course, I mean, if you want to just talk about like the interface and how we interact, it's a very simple website. It's a widget, it's an app, it's a website. It's going to be, you'll see the widget soon on some of your favorite investment different projects or wherever, you'll see it soon. But anyway, it's very easy. You look at it, it says inflation today is 10.41. It doesn't matter what 9.1 means because that is not a true inflation number.
And then same for OtterSec and Certik.
I think we're coming from a bit of a different perspective because I'd say we're more of a services like consulting business. But one thing that we try to do is we try to be very transparent with our work and we try to share as much of it as possible with the world because we think that with more transparency, people can learn from the vulnerabilities that we find on our engagements, and it helps secure the ecosystem as a whole. So we publish a lot of our research on both our blog and our Twitter. So if you have time, you should check some of that stuff out.
Yeah, so I guess as one of the biggest auditing company, right? People will think a lot. They say security audit is very technical, but the reality is a lot of people that when come to Certik, especially our website certik.com, most of them they actually are from non-technical background. So that's why from Certik we really want to translate those complicated technology terminology or maybe wording issue into more user-friendly convenience and understanding verbally. So that's why we're building up a transparency to every single project that we audit. We're onboarding with the timeline whenever we engage with the project team. And also displaying the result, the status of each of the issue, have they resolved it or not. And also in the same time, we're also creating a lot of alertings. I just make sure that we're sending some of the rapport alert, maybe exploit or a scamming service message to all the audience. And then because there is so many scamming projects out there, and many people were thinking about is there anything what we as an auditing firm can do is because we are the one that usually will taking the most early stage view on their code base. So their quality, their project team will be definitely more we have a better engagement with them. So that's why we're also bringing now some of the investigation result, maybe as a KYC badges, to make sure that we are actually talking to the project team. Ensure that they are the real person. They are not involving in any of the previous scamming projects. So that's why we were issuing some of the KYC badges on the website as well. So you guys maybe also take a look to make sure that the project that you are engaging is legitimate. And beside that, we're also having some other additional service rolling out, for instance, contract certifications, because many times people would take copy paste the contract and engage with the auditing firm. But later on, they were changing a line of code, and that line of code might be affecting a couple $1 million. So now we are after the audit, we're definitely working on the verification process, which make sure that whatever people deployed is matching what the auditing scope and nothing got changes. Yeah.
Thank you. And Dan, for those that may not be familiar with the Avalanche network, what are some new dApps, new applications that you've seen where folks here in the crowd may be interested to learn about?
Sure. So for those who haven't heard about Avalanche, we're a layer 1 blockchain network. It's fast. The transaction latency is, let's say, around a second. It's high throughput. Just do a lot of transactions on the network. And one of our core tenets is the idea basically that everyone should be able to spin up their application in their own chain, right? So like, kind of like crypto 1.0 is Bitcoin, right? Which you could think of basically as an application that keeps track of who has how many Bitcoin, which is, is extremely novel, interesting, cool. But, we could like do a little bit better and should do a little bit better as an industry, right? And then there's the second iteration, which is Ethereum, which is an incredible project. And that lets you spin up your own application, but it's all part of the same chain, right? And of course, there's some other gripes that people have with Ethereum. And now there's kind of like this third wave, like Avalanche and some of our competitors, where not only can you create your own application, but it doesn't have to be a smart contract written in Solidity, which most developers don't have experience with. And it doesn't have to, take a few minutes or half an hour for your transaction to go through. But instead, we kind of give you the building blocks to build your own application, right? So you can think of a blockchain-based application as kind of being two different parts. There's the consensus protocol, which is like, how do the participants actually come to agree on stuff? And for that, we've got our own Avalanche consensus protocol, which was developed by our co-founders. And the other part of the application is the actual application logic, right? So the kind of brains of the logic that says like, what is in a block? What does it mean for a block to be accepted and that sort of thing? And we've abstracted out the logic for those two components. So basically, we give you the consensus protocol. We give you kind of a set of rails. And on top of that, you just have to implement a pretty small interface, actually, a pretty small set of requirements in order to build your own application. So you, as the developer, have a great deal of control, and then you can kind of just plug it into Avalanche and launch not only your own dApp, but your own entire chain, right? And this has a lot of benefits. In a sense, it doesn't really make sense for like, if we're all trying to do our own things, right? We're all trying to launch our own decentralized applications. It might not make sense for all of that to be on the same chain, right? Like maybe your application and my application have nothing to do with each other. So why should I have to validate stuff that happens on your chain and vice versa, right? So we're kind of, shifting that approach so that like I can have my own blockchain and I get to pick who validates it, right? And we think that that's a really cool thing that opens up a lot of possibilities.
Thanks, Dan. That was helpful. For the next one, I'll pivot into what each of your companies does in the enterprise segment or any other emerging markets. So feel free to share maybe, where you guys are planning to go or any sort of developments that you guys have done. I can start for Avalanche. Chainlink and Avalanche, we helped launch a smart contract-based insurance claim with the popular insurer Lemonade. It's designed for flood insurance in Nigeria and other developing countries, and we're expanding into other insurance lines as well. And I don't know, Dan, anything else you want to mention, what you guys are doing in the enterprise space?
Sure. So you picked the wrong person to ask because I am a mere developer. But yeah, I do know that we've partnered with a number of large companies. We've partnered with Topps, MLB, trading cards. We've partnered with Deloitte. And I'm not sure which other things are public, so I will stop there.
So I mean, like we definitely work a lot more. We're getting a lot more requests from the traditional enterprise clients. Unfortunately, I cannot share the name until we can make the announcement out. But I could say like it could be like wide range, like cover from the financial service. A lot of financial service they were trying start interesting about the blockchain solutions where they can cooperate into their business process. So they are right now they are making the transitions. And also we partner with, I think what quite popular right now is like entertainment, right? Some of the traditional entertainment companies start building up their NFT or maybe GameFi solutions to make their business into GameFi. I would say like blockchain entertainment field. So Yeah, this is at least like the two changes that we see like quite often in coming the request from the Certik perspective.
Yeah, I think we're looking into partnerships with a couple players who are looking to expand more into the Web3 side, but we're more exploring, and I don't know if we can share anything publicly yet.
So for Truflation, we are on Avalanche. We do work with Chainlink. And right now we started with United States and Canada with the inflation rates there, but we're moving into the United Kingdom and some other European countries. We're going to have 16 NFT indexes soon. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to also be launching our blockchain wallet and Flatcoin very soon. So we have a lot coming from Laguna.
Thanks, guys. And last question before we pivot into Q&A, kind of an open-ended question, but what do you guys think is going to be the next massive wave of adoption in DeFi? Is it going to be inflation-based liquidity pools? Is it going to be something else? What do you guys think?
So I kind of looked at this question. I look at this question, and I'm thinking that for me, it's mass adoption. I don't think anything's going to change. So we've already kind of have all the investors in crypto. We need to get the rest of the world involved, and that's going to happen when the interface is a little bit easier and people can get in through to their projects without having to navigate MetaMask and the other interfaces. So I think in terms for me, I think mass adoption will come then.
Yeah, so I think that improving UI will help speed up adoption of the crypto industry more widely. I can't say that I have a particular guess as to what the next big thing will be, but I think in order to gain mainstream acceptance and usage, crypto and blockchain has to offer something that is novel, is interesting, that you can't do somewhere else, right? Because if you're just some person on the street, right, and someone says, oh, you should do such and such on the blockchain, you know, maybe that sounds kind of scary. Maybe you've heard about people losing a bunch of money. Maybe you've heard about hacks and this and that and the other thing. And I think in order to get people to cross that threshold, you have to offer them something that they can't get anywhere else. And frankly, I don't think that the promise of decentralization is enough for that, right? Because, you know, maybe people are kind of mistrustful of financial institutions, banks, whoever else, but they're probably more mistrustful of us, right? Because you know, compared to Citibank, JP Morgan, et cetera, you know, we're small fish, right? So we have to offer them something better, and not just something better because there's a bunch of, you know, funny business happening behind the curtain where, you know, you're hypothecating a bunch of assets that you don't really have the money to pay back, and this and that and the other thing, right? The answer can't be like fraud. The answer can't be like inventing something that actually doesn't have any inherent value. So I think that in the blockchain and crypto world, there have been a bunch of really novel, interesting innovations, right? And you know, consensus protocols obviously is one thing, but that's not going to get people on board, right? So I think in DeFi, for example, like automated market makers, that's really cool. That's novel. And is that going to get people in the door? Probably not, right? They probably don't really care about that. Flash loans are another thing that, like, there's really no analog in the traditional world for that. And, you know, also that's not probably going to get people in the door. But I think that eventually there will come products that appeal to a wide enough audience that we can onboard a lot of people and get like real mass adoption.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to predict like what will be a wave, but I can comment on, I guess, like some things that we observe. I think one thing is onboarding of more real world assets on chain. So for example, like putting real estate as an NFT and bringing that into DeFi by like fractionalizing the NFT, which I think is a really interesting problem. And it like is a pretty interesting application of DeFi because you can actually use it with real assets.
Yeah, so I guess from the observing from the like project building or maybe like looking for security assessment, like most of them they are NFT and then transition into more DeFi fashions. Like for instance, like putting NFT as like a liquidity or liquefy the NFT for a fractional purpose or such that. And also like the maybe like GameFi also one of the way that could be possibly highly related to build on top of the fundamental as for decentralized finance as well. But no matter what, it's like from security firm perspective, what we see is like giving the high amount of exploit from the Q1 and Q2. I think like one of the biggest topic will be bring up is like the insurance. How insurance always the backbone for the financial services. So this topic will be come across, right? More and more, how can you protect your assets when you're investing in the XYZ vault or pool? And I believe that Chainlink also working a lot on the insurance type of price oracle, maybe like pricing stat. So I think that would be also helping people to getting like a fair rate for the insurance program.
Thank you so much, guys. That was super insightful. Let's give a hand up for our panelists here today. All right, we have a few minutes for Q&A, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. I think it'll be quiet enough if you speak loud enough. Yeah, go for it. Can you guys hear him?
Yeah. So basically, my question is more of on the legal side of the tokens. I've been researching upon them, and it's kind of answer which I'm trying to find at this moment. So according to the token, it's by SEC, it's kind of security and the tokens which are out there. Okay. So
I can hear.
hello. That's good. So yeah, my question more of comes from a legal side of the tokens. So how exactly, if something goes wrong on the token side, how a person can go in the court, and is there any law existing for for if on the token side? Because regarding the securities, Ethereum and Bitcoin are declared non-securities, but the tokens which are there, the DAO tokens or the DeFi tokens, they are not yet legally backed up. So what could be the solution for that, if you have any answer?
Our general counsel will be very proud of me for saying, I can't answer that question for you. Sorry.
Because this is the question, like while I was consulting to DAOs, now I'm consulting to people who want to make DAOs, and I'm concerned that if I consult wrong, it's hazardous. So I'm just keeping quiet when it comes to token, and I'm trying to find the answer, but I'm not able to.
My advice to you would be to talk to someone that actually practices law and not some guy on the internet.
I spent $500 yesterday talking to a lawyer, and they don't have answer.
What is that, 5 minutes of lawyer time, or?
That's something. Look, yeah. So thanks a lot. Yep.
Good luck.
Great talk from everyone. This question is more for the gentleman from Truflation. CPI data, although its flaws are still ingested by large banks and TradFi, do you find a similar interest in ingesting Truflation data from either Web3 or TradFi? I know you guys are still early, and
We're getting a lot of attention right now. It's very timely. Our methods are very sound. We're at a consensus level. We're doing 30, 40 million data points. We're definitely getting noticed. I can't say too much now, but I know that you'll see us as a widget and be available on many of your favorite financial Web2 websites. Yeah. So it's hard for me to answer that directly, but I think you're going to see a lot more of Truflation, and we are looking at doing, this potentially for countries that can't handle it on their own.
great, thank you. And congratulations, I saw you guys got high praise at Davos this year.
Yes, we did. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
got a question for the auditors. It seems like a lot of projects kind of see audits as like a panacea. Wondering what you guys think about how we can make security more continuous as opposed to just like a one, snapshot in time.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty difficult question for projects because a lot of the time it's like there are ways to ensure like a continuous engagement, right, from auditors. For example, we offer a retainer service. I think the issue for projects is they often need to trade off between like their runway and like their supposed or like their belief of how much security they're really getting, right? And oftentimes I think, at least in the moment, projects will make the compromise against security and like having more short-term spending power. And security is also kind of difficult because it's often difficult to evaluate like how much security benefit you're really getting because it doesn't really hurt you until you actually get hacked. And there's actually a pretty good chance that I think you like will not get hacked. Like realistically, only a very small percentage of projects get hacked, right? So like sometimes projects are willing to take that gamble. And I feel like it's more of an issue on like the community side and like general public awareness. Like if the people using the app pressure the project to like have some sort of continuous engagement with like a security firm, then like there'll be a financial incentive for them to actually do so, as opposed to them just being like, oh yeah, let's yellow our security and have an audit report at the very beginning and then do whatever we want with our code base.
Yes, so I guess there's multiple stage that we have been thinking through this problem a lot. How can we, control some of the dynamic security risk? So when we're doing the investigation, maybe the study, we find out that many times when a project doing the audit, this is more statics, right? We're improving the code quality. Some of the project also engage with like, unit tests, integration tests, but at the end it's like, sometimes a program will still make a mistake, and not execute as expected. So when we come across on different like category, like I think they're just using like one of the example as like a DeFi, right? Most of the time DeFi will be impacting like by several factors. Like one could be like external factor. If one of the library or maybe like the pool that you are engaging got exploited, you will also got your project might also get like affected by that type of risk. And the other one is like unfortunately you got like economic model impacting by some XYZ token as well. So from Certik perspective, like this is why we are monitoring like smart contract usage, just like for step number 1, transaction behavior, like a normal transaction behavior on detecting the wallet edges that you guys are interacting could be like another risk factor. And then the third one is like, can we doing more like a simulation testing on the economic part? For instance, if a token XYZ was like launches, like can we engage it with their tokenomic model and simulate on another like forker environment, just make sure that the security could be like somehow continuously captured on the usage on the fly. And also one more is if there any project recently got exploited, right? Is your project will be got affected. So this is something that we are trying to rolling out very soon. What we call a VMM system, is like vulnerability monitoring. So meaning that if there is a one exploit, we're going to scan through all our code base and study is that we're going to generate some of the test case to fuzzing your contract. If you are got affecting by the most recent exploit scenario, like Certik will definitely reach out with you guys, just make sure that can minimize the loss before some other hacker just like spotting on your contract stuff. And all this, we definitely will work in a fashion, first work with the project team and then, make it a little bit more transparent to after all the fix has been there, just like transparent to the community as well.
Thank you. I feel it's appropriate to ask the question since we're at a Chainlink sponsored event. What is in each of your roles the biggest value add that Chainlink or an Oracle real world data provider to a blockchain in each of your positions?
So first of all, we really couldn't do this without Chainlink, obviously. So we're very deeply involved with you guys, and you've become an integral part of Truflation. In addition to that, the NFT that we're going to be bringing out will only open up when the Truflation number reaches a certain amount, which will be also regulated by Chainlink in terms of API interaction. So we think that's kind of fun. So there are a few things that we're doing, but obviously, as Laguna and as a large organization, we're looking to integrate with many different organizations, and especially Chainlink to a greater amount.
Yeah, obviously, when you're working in the blockchain world, right, you need to have some way of getting like real world information into the blockchain, right? And that's what you guys do, and that's super important for a number of dApps on Avalanche. So keep it up.
Yeah, I think many projects that we work with, or like we work with a lot of DeFi projects, and having a trusted oracle is like super helpful, right? Or like essentially most of DeFi would not function without a reliable, speedy, and trusted oracle. So I think having that in Chainlink is very, very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I've heard similar since we're this. Yeah, we always say when people are using, price or strategy stuff, we have to recommend that, using like some legitimate, providers. Make sure that your project will not get hacked. And we do see a lot in the past, like people were kind of like reinvent. So they built their own oracle, and at the end, like all this project got hacked. Yeah, so.
This one's for, my bad. This one's for Chris at Truflation. Backing up your comment about moving forward with decentralization, has the Truflation team given any thought to opening up further decentralization of either bootstrapping other nodes or data providers to help provide inflation data from other sources or from other nodes on the Chainlink Oracle network to allow dApp creators or smart contract engineers to access multiple data points from that?
So that's a very good question. It's a bit above my pay grade, but I'm going to say yes to that. I think we're definitely looking at trying to create, collect the data from as many places we can and have it authenticated by Chainlink. And so I'm not really the right person to answer that question. That's a very good question. But I think our goal is to create a huge database and a huge data collection, and right now it's in the tens of millions, and over time it'll be even more, to help make sure that the veracity and accuracy of the data is there.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you. So my question is for Avalanche and maybe Sina. So you guys are doing a project with Lemonade. Why did you choose Avalanche for the integration? I don't know if that's a question for you or something.
We did choose Avalanche. All the different providers on it, the reinsurers, the data providers, all of them were on Avalanche. We're blockchain agnostic. We work on a couple dozen different blockchains. And so for us, it really doesn't matter. But Avalanche is doing a lot of investment on the enterprise side. And yeah, just happened to be that way.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? No? Well, again, thank you again for, let's give another round of applause for the panelists here.